Hey guys, this is Archana from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session on manual testing. Without any delay, let's go ahead and take a look at the topics which we will be talking about in today's session. So here we go. We will begin the session by talking about software testing and two main categories of software testing. After that, we will get started with our today's topic, which is manual testing. There we will discuss what manual testing is, its advantages, how to perform manual testing, its types and disadvantages. And finally, we will conclude this session by discussing the key differences between manual testing and automation testing. So I hope agenda was clear to you guys. Let's get started then. Today's world of technology is completely dominated by machines and their behavior is controlled by software powering it. You guys know it. Any software project has three vital aspects that are cost, time, and quality. So the prime objective of any project is to get a high quality output while reducing the cost and the time required for completing the project. But how is that achieved? Through software testing. Software testing is the phase of development lifecycle that aims at evaluating the capacity of a program or a system or an application, identifying its problematic areas, and then determining if or not it meets the core objective of development. So before software actually goes public, programmers spend hours trying to iron out every little software bug. They check for any mistakes and problem in the design and the functionality of the software. Well, until then, product won't be available for commercial use in the market. So that's what software testing is, and it's a part of software development lifecycle, and very important part at that. So this software testing is a huge domain, but it can be broadly categorized into two main areas, which are manual testing and automated testing. While in manual testing, as the name suggests, test cases are executed manually by a human, that is, without any support from tools or scripts. But with automated testing, test cases are executed with assistance of tools, scripts, and softwares. So both manual and automated testing offer benefits and disadvantages. It's worth knowing the difference and when to use one or the other for best results, which we will discuss at the end of the session. But as for now, let's discuss more about manual testing in very detail. Manual testing means testing of an application manually by a human. A tester performing manual testing ensures that an application is working properly by following conditions written in test cases. This means that someone actually goes on a device to evaluate numerous components like design, functionality, and performance by clicking through multiple elements of the application. Manual testing is really helpful when automation testing is not possible. Let's say if you want to test a mobile application under unpredictable conditions, you can use manual testing. Like when mobile application is running when the phone is in user's pocket and there are many unintentional taps. So what will happen when such scenario arises? The testers simulate the condition to check whether this will lead to crashing of the application or not. Well, you can't apply automation there, right? So that's when manual testing becomes handy. So basically, the entire testing process is executed by a human here. This manual testing has a lot of advantages. Let's take a look at few of them. First of all, with the manual testing, testers can test the application under similar conditions when the application goes live. Any bugs or glitches or errors which occur when the application is live can be easily tracked with help of manual testing. So we can call it live testing. And secondly, in manual testing, less programming knowledge is required. Basically, when you're testing an application manually, the main focus is on understanding the requirements, documenting the test cases, and executing test cases as you're performing them as live. So your focus on programming is usually less. After that, automated tests are quite literally robotic. They fail to act as a real end-user world. But manual testing helps tester to identify any issues related to the look and feel of the application. It also helps to find out the usability issues in the application. Any bugs and defects that may pop up as soon as user handles the given software in a certain way are more likely to be wedged with help of manual testing. So in case of visual testing, manual testing is really helpful. Manual testing requires low investment as it doesn't require any costly tools or high-level skills to perform. So what I mean to say here is that initial investment in manual testing is very low and manual testing is cost-effective in short-term scenarios. Lastly, in manual testing, you can swiftly test and see the outcomes. So it's well suited in case when you're making a lot of unplanned changes to your application or software, an application needs to be tested immediately after implementing the changes. In such cases, manual testing is really helpful. So these are few advantages. Now that we know what we can benefit from manual testing, let's go ahead to our next topic. So when you begin testing, one of the primary decisions that you'll have to make is when you're going to test manually or if you're going to use automation testing. While neither of these options are technically better or worse when compared to other, the features like size, budget, time allowance of a project will certainly be the factors that affect which method you'll choose. So you should know when to choose manual testing, right? Let's take a look at few scenarios where you can apply manual testing. The first such scenario is exploratory testing. Well, exploratory testing is carried out by domain experts. So this type of testing requires testers' knowledge, experience, analytical skills, logical skills, creativity, and intuition. Here, test is characterized by poorly written documentation or a short time of execution. So basically, we need the human skills to execute the testing process in the scenario. Manual testing comes to rescue while working with poorly written documentation and if there's a shortage of time. This approach, basically that's exploratory testing, requires minimal planning and maximum test execution, which is possible if you choose manual testing. So this is one scenario where manual testing is really helpful. After that, you have usability testing. Usability testing helps to find out the user friendliness of an application, as the name indicates. So this is an area where you need to measure how user friendly, efficient, or convenient the software or the product is to end users. So basically, human observation is the most important factor, so a manual approach is preferable. Nextly, you have ad hoc testing. So as the name suggests, this type of testing does not follow any fixed method or approach, you can say. Well, that's why it's called informal type of testing. In ad hoc testing, testers randomly test the application without following any documents and any test design techniques. So understanding and insight of a tester is a very important factor. Naturally, manual testing is preferable here as well. Well, these are three main scenarios where manual testing is preferred over test automation or automation testing. What are those? Exploratory testing, usability testing, and ad hoc testing. Apart from these, when should you choose manual testing over automation testing? When the project is usually in the initial development stage, when testing user interface, especially with visual aspects. Well, if there's a short-term project mainly, and the write-in scripts will be time-consuming, in such cases you can use manual testing instead of going for automation. Well, after that, the next question that pops out is there a specific procedure to perform manual testing? Well, yes, the process is kind of similar to any testing process. Let's take a look at it. So the first step is understanding the requirements. So in order to successfully conduct manual tests, you first need to understand the requirements of the software. So by understanding the requirements, you will know what needs to be tested and what classifies as a defect or bug. So that's the crucial part of manual testing. His main goal here is to make sure that your software or application doesn't have any bugs. The next step is writing test cases. So once you understand the requirements, you can write test cases. That's another crucial part of manual testing. These test cases basically guide you through a sequence of tests to test functions and different scenarios written within software application. And remember that writing good test cases is important as they make executing the test go very smoothly and ensure good test coverage. So once you're done writing test cases, the next step is conducting the test. So once your test cases are written and test environments is properly prepared, it's time to begin testing. You can follow the test cases and mark each test as passed, failed, or skipped. When doing manual testing, it's important to keep notes on what happens when a test fails. That's really important. You can't ignore that fact just because your test failed. The fourth step is to log good bug reports. So in addition to actual testing, as a tester, you'll be responsible for logging bugs as well. So as you encounter bugs, you need to log information for the development team about the defect. So writing good bug reports will help you and your team later. You will save yourself time when answering these questions about the bugs later. So basically you have a document that you can refer to. At its core, a good bug report should have a strong title, steps on how to overcome the bug, expected and actual results, and any relevant attachments that will help the development team to understand the issue or the bug. like screenshots or recordings or export files as such. So lastly, you need to create a detailed test report. After running tests, it's good to know the results of the tests at very high level, like how many tests were run, how many tests failed, how many were skipped, like that. Pretty straightforward process, right? Well, with that done, let's move on to our next topic, which is different types of manual testing. It's basically divided into 6 types. But again, these types of testing can be carried out either manually or using a test automation tool. So let's start with the first type of testing, which is black box testing. In this type of testing, the tester does not have any knowledge about the code or the structure of the application or software that he is testing. He just interacts with the application and tests the functionality and the non-functional behavior of the application. Well, there are various black box techniques that can be used by the tester to find bugs and defects. Next is white box testing. So as the name suggests, in white box testing, the tester knows about the code and the structure of the application. For that reason, it's also known as glass box or transparent box testing. Mostly, this type of testing is used by developers to perform unit testing. There are various white box testing that can be used by tester to find bugs and defects, like you have control flow testing, data flow testing, then you have branch testing, and then statement testing, decision coverage, and path testing, and many more. Apart from black box and white box, you also have something called gray box, which I haven't listed here. It's a part black box and it's part white box. So basically, you have information about certain factors of an application, and you don't have information about certain factors. That we call gray box testing. The next type is unit testing. You can call this as first level of testing. It's a way of testing the smallest piece of code, which is referred to as unit. This unit can be logically isolated in a system. Well, it is logically isolated in a system. It's mainly focused on the functional correctness of the standalone modules, you can say. So unit can be almost anything. It can be a specific piece of functionality. It can be a part of your code or a program, a particular method within the application. It can be anything, a unit. So this unit testing uses white box testing methods or techniques and usually performed using a preferred programming language of your choice. It's essential for the developers to unit test the software before handing it over to QA team, because unit test offers several advantages or benefits. It makes your code reusable as you need to use a modular approach, or as you're using modular approach here. It also makes debugging a lot easier. So basically, unit testing is performed before moving on to next stage of testing. So what's the next stage of testing? You have integration testing. It is performed after unit testing, where different units, modules, components of the software or the application that you're testing on are integrated or combined together. As you can guess from the name itself, the main purpose here is to verify the functionality, stability, and the reliability of the modules when they are combined together. The main focus of integration testing is to check the correctness of communication among all these modules or units. Next up, we have system testing. System testing is the next natural step after integration testing. It's carried out on a complete, fully integrated software product to evaluate the behavior of the system in an entire fashion, and then to examine how the full working of an integrated software computer system against the given requirements. So basically, you are testing the entire application as a whole here. So there are various system testing techniques here, like you have functionality testing, performance, scalability, stress testing, and regression testing. Well, I can't discuss about them here, but we do have other videos in Edureka playlist to refer to if you want to know more about this system testing types. So please do that. Go ahead and refer to other videos in the software testing Edureka playlist. Okay, let's move on to next type of testing, which is acceptance testing. User acceptance testing is the formal testing that's performed based on user requirements and function processing. Well, this type of testing covers end user real world scenarios. It's the last step of testing. It needs to be done very correctly because it will provide you with the results on basis of which your software product will either be approved or rejected by the senior management. So it's a very important and final step. So guys, these are different types of manual testing. But please do remember that these type of testing can be carried out either manually or using a test automation tool, like I said earlier. So they particularly do not belong to manual testing. So guys, earlier I did tell that just like automation testing, manual testing too has its pros and cons. We did discuss certain advantages. Now let's go ahead and discuss disadvantages of manual testing. First of all, it's really time consuming. Manual tests can be reused, which means every time there's a change in application, the tester needs to run all the test cases again from the beginning. Hence, the tester need to test the application even in case of minor changes. Imagine that. It's really a very time-consuming process, right? As you can see, the important resources here are nothing but humans, because basically the entire manual testing is performed by humans. So to repeat the same task again and again is really time-consuming. And there's high possibility of errors in manual testing. That's because manual testing is dependent on humans, and there's a high possibility of errors because of that. The testing results will be as good as tester performing the test. So if the person who is performing the test is really good at what is doing, then you can expect no errors. Otherwise, you might find certain errors and bugs. With manual testing, there are chances that tester may miss out on some bugs or some repeated bugs which are resting within the application. So what I'm trying to say here is that since manual testing is performed by humans, it's more prone to errors. And then you have testing limitations. Manual testing is not good for load and performance testing. To check the performance of an application in manual testing, there's a requirement of large number of users and gadgets. The moment the term gadgets comes in, it is no more a manual testing. It belongs to automation testing. So you have certain limitations in manual testing. So that's it, guys. We have almost reached to the end of the session. Last topic for today's session is differences between manual testing and automation testing. So like I said earlier, when you begin testing, one of the primary decisions that you will have to make is if you're going to test your application or software manually or if you're going to apply automation. While neither of these options are technically better or worse when compared to one another, the features like size, budget, and time allowance make a lot of difference on which one are you choosing. So you should be aware of distinct and key differences between manual testing and automation testing. So let's discuss. So guys, I have listed out certain features against which we will compare manual testing and automation testing. Let's take a look. The first thing is user interface. In case of manual testing, testers usually tend to check the user friendliness quotient of the system or application which is being developed. So manual testing allows for human observation, which may be more useful if the goal is user friendliness or improved customer experience. But when it comes to automation, we use tools and no much attention is paid to user interface of the application. So automated testing does not entail human observation and cannot guarantee user friendliness and positive customer experience. And then you have testing time. As you might have expected, manual testing is time consuming because it takes up human resources. Automation testing is faster as it operates on tools that test the system or application according to different cases. Talking about accuracy, manual testing, though double-checked, has scope of human error, so it's not very accurate. Automation testing is highly accurate as it completely depends on the results of testing tools. And then comes the reliability. Manual testing is complete dependency on humans, like I've been saying since we started the topic. Hence, it cannot be acclaimed as highly reliable. But automation testing is comparatively more reliable as tools execute the results of test cases which are formulated by testers. Well, again, humans are involved, but then humans are using tools to perform the test, so accuracy or the reliability is literally high in case of automation. Next, the programming. We already discussed this earlier. The main focus in manual testing is on documentation, writing test cases and all that. So programming is not that very important, or it's not given much importance to. Whereas automation testing requires programming. Why? Because using programming, you need to devise new test cases that can check the proper functionality of system in multiple scenarios, which is not easy to do if you're using manual tasks. But since you're using automation, it needs programming to do all this. And then comes the concept of budget. Manual testing is not really much expensive, but it's considered good for short-term goals. Automation testing is expensive as it requires purchasing tools. However, it's quite reasonable in terms of long-term. So if you're going for short-term testing, you should prefer manual testing. If you're going for long-term, then automation testing is much better. Then comes the investment cost. Manual testing requires investment in terms of hiring resources, which is mostly human. Automation testing requires investment in terms of purchasing tools. So that's how manual testing differs from automation testing. Guys, you need to remember one thing. You cannot consider manual testing and automation testing as two separate processes. So when you say testing in general, it involves both manual testing and automated testing. So guys, with this, we have reached the end of the session. Like we discussed, manual testing is both pros and cons. You need the right mix of manual testing and automated testing to get the best results. You need to find the best approach in any given testing situation to achieve high quality output within your budget and timeline. So that's it, guys. I hope the session was interesting. Well, if you have any doubts or if you have any queries or if you have anything to say, please do post them in the comment section and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.